Should we get started? I mean, it's almost 5 after, and we want to waste no time, so there's lots of time for Q&A. So officially welcome everybody to In the Kitchen with Chef Joel. This is part of USO's Military Spouse Connection series, and we're just here because we all love to connect over food, something we need, something we love, and we're really happy that you're here with us today. Everyone is welcome to join us on camera if you'd like. We just ask that you stay on mute if you're on camera until you're ready to ask a question. And if you don't want to join us on camera, that's okay too. Again, if you didn't get the recipe for this morning where we're going to be making gnocchi, put your email in the chat box and we'll make sure somebody can email that to you. Just so you all know, we're super, super lucky today to have a couple businesses supporting what we do. 10 spouses who join today and complete the feedback survey that we send you afterward are going to get a gift box from Cabot Cheese, which just sounds delicious, and I want one right now. So 10 of you will get that, and 10 of you will also get a USO apron. All you got to do is participate today and fill out the survey that we send you at the end. Just so you know, if you are one of the recipients of the Cabot Cheese, they have let us know that it takes about 3 or 4 weeks to get those sent out, so it might take a little bit to get that for you. But I wanted to make a special introduction to our superstar host today, Chef Joel Gamoran. He's written a cookbook called Cooking Scrappy. He has a hit TV show that's called Scraps, which you can find on Hulu. He's a dad who just celebrated his 3rd Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to you, Joel. And he is the founder and head chef at Homemade, where they offer personalized virtual cooking experiences. So if you go to withhomemade.com, you can learn more about what they do, but they believe everyone should be able to attend a free cooking class. So without further ado, Chef Joel, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Liz. I kind of feel like beyond military spouse, you should be like a TV host. You have it down, girl. Like, oh my gosh.
Thank you.
I love it. Wow. I adore coming and cooking with the military spouses. So thank you so much for inviting me, for having me here, and for everyone logging in from all over the world. So nice to meet you. Like Liz said, I'm Joel. I'm going to be your chef today, and we're going to make gnocchi from scratch at Homemade. We believe everything is best made homemade. So we also know that a lot of you are stationed all over the world. I saw Germany, I saw Texas, I saw Virginia, I saw Italy. And we know a lot of you might not have access to a ton of ingredients or a giant grocery store. So what we've really tried to do is make recipes with only 5 ingredients and 5 tools. We call it the 5x5 challenge. And it's been really fun. We've been doing this every couple of months, and we were excited to kind of continue on because we do see it kind of growing and gaining a little steam. But what's so cool about this is that you guys can interact with me in real time. So at any time, please feel free to unmute and ask a question. I might ask you guys questions, so I'd love for you to kind of give me feedback. And if you're not comfortable speaking up, that's totally cool too. We have another chef. Her name is Heather, and she's in the chat. So if you have a question, you can always just throw it in the chat, type it in, and we'll get back to you literally within like a minute. She's so fast. I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington. I turned my little garage here into a cooking studio, which has been really fun. And Liz talked about, cooking scrappy. I live scrappy, and I know a lot of you guys do too because you're living all over the world and making best with what you have. But what's cool about the studio is that you guys can have different kind of camera angles. So when I'm chopping, you guys will be able to see my board. Check this out. You want to flip over there? Yeah, beautiful. And then there's a top-down camera too. So if you guys at any time have questions about kind of a certain moment, a technique, you can always ask to kind of get a different view. Make sense? Thumbs up? Now, I always speak in thumbs up because a lot of you guys are going to be cooking along with me, might have dirty hands. I don't want you guys touching the keyboard. So at any time when I say thumbs up, I want to either see you physically give me a thumbs up if you're sharing your video, or there's a little button called notifications, and you can give me a virtual thumbs up. So let's see, at least everyone. Thank you, Michelle. All right, Amanda. Okay, I love it. And you guys can raise your hand there as well. So if you have a question, raise your hand. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Lauren. If you guys have a question, raise your hand. I'll call on you. Again, this should be like we're all cooking in the kitchen together, hanging out as one big USO family. And I do want to say, we've got like 25 questions. We're not going to get to all of them, but we'll hit up some good ones. But one of the questions is, do I have a personal connection to the USO? And the answer is, this is my personal connection to the USO. So I recognize that I cannot be cooking and inspiring people to cook and living my life with my 2 little boys and my beautiful wife if I wasn't protected and if I wasn't reliant on the great servicemen and women that make sure that our country stays safe and allows us to be us. So I just want to thank you all for what you do and everything that you guys do to serve our country, because you're doing just as much as your spouses, if not more. Trust me, I understand that. So just thank you to everyone on this call. It means a lot to me to be able to be here and somewhat be able to give back and repay all the efforts that you guys put forward every day. So let's get cooking. Gnocchi. Does anyone even know what gnocchi means? Who can tell me what gnocchi means? Like, raise your hand. What is a gnocchi? Nobody? Oh my gosh. Okay. You can unmute at any time. But gnocchi literally translate, I know this is so gross, to lump. Gnocchi means lump, people. So anything that's a lump in Italian is technically a gnocchi. But we are making what's these little kind of potato dumplings, and it's really like a pasta course in Italy. So, you know, in Italy you get your beautiful salad, you get your pasta, you get your entree. This would be considered your pasta course. So I think this is like a total 1-pan meal. It's really a 2-pan meal. But the reality is that this can be dinner, right? With 5 ingredients, really humble ingredients. Here's what you need for this and what we asked you to grab. So we do need some russet potatoes. Do you want to go to a top-down view so everyone can see, Miss Heather? So a couple of russet potatoes. We'll talk about why russet in a sec. Parmesan cheese, butter, an egg, some flour, nutmeg, and sage. And if you got those things, you're in good shape. Now, if all you have is 5 of those ingredients, the potato, the egg, the cheese, the flour, you're going to be golden too. So don't feel like you need to find sage or anything like that. Now, let's say you can't find russet potatoes. Did anyone have a tough time finding russet potatoes? Raise your hand. No? Okay, cool. So russet, you just want to find a non-waxy potato. So if you're at the grocery store and you can't find russet potatoes, Google, is this a waxy potato? And you can throw in the name of the potato you see at the grocery store and it will tell you. But you want something that doesn't have a ton of starch because this is going to make it a little drier and more of like a dumpling versus like, it won't be like so gummy, if that makes sense. We have sage. You can use thyme. You can use basil. Any fresh herb will work for this recipe. My only big thing is, whenever I make pasta, you got to have the real Parmesan. So if you didn't get the real Parmesan and you got Parmesan that's already ground up or it's in a container, that's cool for today. But future, get the real Parm, baby. Get the real Parm. And then I do know a lot of people in the world today are gluten-free, which is totally great. You can find great gluten-free flour now. It's called 1-to-1. Bob's Red Mill makes them. So if you don't use just normal flour, you can find gluten-free 1-to-1 flour and replace it in this recipe. Make sense? Thumbs up. Any other questions on substitutions or anything like that? All right. Can I get some thumbs up? Let me see. Let me make sure you guys are all tracking. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, Amanda. Brittany. Hang. Oh, there's it. There's my thumbs. There are my thumbs. All right. Cool, guys. So, step 1. We got to get these potatoes cooking, like now. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to peel these potatoes, all right? And I'm literally going to just take off the outside with my peeler. And potatoes have what's called eyes. These are literally called eyes. And I worked in a French restaurant in Paris where I had a chef who would literally slap me on the hand when he saw me and I had eyes on my potatoes. A lot of people think they're bitter. I don't think they're that crazy. But I want to show you a cool trick that a lot of people don't know. This peeler, which is like $4, right, has a little eye remover. So see this little loop? And you can literally dig in and remove the eyes. Not that you need to, but that's what that little loop is for, if you've ever wondered what that is. And a lot of peelers have that, not just this one. So try and find a peeler with an eye remover, if that makes sense. Weird to say, but it really does make a difference. So let's peel the other one, all right? And we're literally just taking off the outer skin, nothing crazy. Now, I am someone to save all my ingredients and make something really good. Does anyone know what you could do with all these potato peels besides throw them away? What do you think? Any ideas? Come on, USO.
We fry them up and make chips.
Thank you, Liz. You can throw them in a fryer. They make unbelievable crisps, like incredible. You could absolutely bake them and put them on top of soups or in salads instead of croutons. So try not to throw away your potato peels. They're really, really crunchy and delicious. So I'm going to put mine to the side here. All right. Now, I've got my potatoes, and what I want you guys to do is I want you to cut them in half so that they sit flat like this. All right. Whenever you have a round vegetable or anything you're cutting that's round, you always want to kind of cut it so it sits flat. It's just safer. Cool? And then I'm going to cut almost like steak fries. Just little strips, and then cut those strips into little cubes. And I'm cutting them really small today so they boil up fast for us. But you can cut them big. You can cut them even smaller than this. The reality is, as long as they're the same size as each other, so they all cook at the same time, you're totally fine. Doesn't matter if you cut them big or small. Has anyone ever made gnocchi before? Raise your hand if you've ever done this in your life. No? Raise your hand. No one can raise their hand. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to get blown away. Homemade gnocchi is the best. All right, so I'm just cutting out this last potato here. Again, just small little cubes. This is probably going to take like 10 minutes to boil. By the way, I know I've spoke to a lot of you guys already, but if you haven't got water boiling, get your water boiling. And I know a lot of you already boiled your potatoes, which means you are earning an extra credit today. Lots of extra credit. All right, cool. Now, if you have a peel on there, or if like you miss a spot, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. No one's going to taste the difference. So I have this tool, one of my favorites. Anyone know what this is called? Hey, Sandy, you have a question? Oh, you there, Sandy?
I don't have any questions. I'm sorry. I'm a little delayed on the raising hand for
no problem.
it together.
No
Sorry.
problem. No, cool. All right, so
I've made gnocchi before. That's what I raised my hand
Oh, we got a gnocchi fan. All right, thank you, Sandy. And don't you think it's better homemade? Do you agree?
for. Oh, everything is better homemade.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen. Preach it, girl. All right, so I'm picking up all my potatoes. I'm getting them into my water. All right? And I'm literally going to let those boil for about 10 minutes. Cool. Now, this is one of the tools I'm obsessed with, which is called a bench scraper. And you'll see, we'll use this when we're making gnocchi, but I love it when you're chopping garlic and you scoop it on there, or you're even cleaning up the table and you can kind of scrape it up. So this is like, again, $5. Bench scraper. Make sure it's in your kitchen. Makes cleanup and prep so much easier. Cool? All right. Now, we did have some questions while these potatoes are boiling a little bit that were submitted ahead of time. One I want to start with, which I thought was the funniest questions ever, and I think it was from a kid. So I have them written up on a board here. So one of them is, how do you get a cooking show? Such a cool question. I don't know who asked that, but I'm going to answer that question. So in today's day and age, you got to have a little bit of a following. And the way that you get a following, whether it's on social media or not, is you got to have a point of view in the kitchen. And for me, it was, I don't waste anything. And I cook sustainably. And so that was kind of my point of view, is that we really are wasting a lot in America. Almost 40% of the food that we're growing and producing gets thrown away. How do we save that and make that interesting? So that was my point of view, and then I started building an audience and going on the Today Show, and really I started on local networks, going on local shows, and then the Today Show found me, and then I started pitching. I went into Food Network, I went into Cooking Channel, I went into Discovery and Travel Channel, and everyone said, Joel, you want to cook garbage on TV? Is that what you're saying you want to do? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that is what I'm saying, but it's going to work. It's going to save people money. It's going to save the earth. So I got about, 150 no's. before Katie Couric and I became friends. I went on her show, and she really liked the mission, and we really clicked. And so she helped me get it sold eventually to A&E Networks, which then sold to Hulu. So I think it's a little bit of luck, a little bit of grit. It took me about 10 years to get my cooking show, and about 12 to get a cookbook. So I put in the time. You got to really love food. You got to love the grind, but eventually you get there. So that's how I got my cooking show. Another great question is, how do you sharpen your knife? Oh my gosh. Raise your hand if your knives suck right now. Yes. Why does our knives always suck? Mine is too. So even as a chef, yes, Laura, thank you. So here's the deal. Do you guys know those, like, they're called steels. I don't have one in here, but I can use whatever. They look like a long stick that you go like this. You see Gordon Ramsay do this with his shirt off a lot on TV. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So that is like every day you want to hone your knife. That doesn't sharpen your knife. That just makes it straight. Sharpening your knife is something that you do on a stone. You can buy a sharpening stone. Amazon sells it for like $20. And it can show you how to do it. That's a whole other class. But as long as you hone it every single time before you cook, you actually will have a really nice sharp blade for a long time. If you don't do that, you're going to need to kind of sharpen it. Good question, though. All right, guys, I'm checking my potatoes real quick. They're just boiling up. And I know it's hard for you guys to see over here. This is another great tool. This is called a spider. All right, it's like a little basket. Really good for frying things. Great for taking pasta out of the water. So I love the spider. So at this point, you need a peeler with an eye remover. You need a bench scraper, and you need a spider. All right, so while we're waiting for this, we're going to start our sauce. This sauce could not be more easy, and we're going to make a brown butter sage sauce. All right? Now, when you think about butter, just like a lot of ingredients, has sugar in it, right? Milk has sugar in it, and butter's made out of milk, right? So we want to caramelize the sugar. We want to get it brown enough where it gets sweet and nutty. So what I want everyone to do is get a nice big pan, preferably non-stick if you have it, all right? And get it on like a medium heat. Like I would say like like a 6 out of 10. All right? And I want you to just add your butter. Now, I always call for unsalted butter. Does anyone know why? Why don't you buy salted butter? Any thoughts? Raise your hand or unmute.
Because my grandmother said so.
Ah, I love it. Well, if Grandma says so, it's game on. That's for sure. Did your grandma really say that? That's so funny.
She did. She's Italian.
Ah, I love it. Yeah. So the reason why you would never buy salted butter, really, is salted butter is for, like, toast. And it's for, like, spreading, right? And it's already done. But you cook with unsalted butter so we can add salt as we need it. So we can kind of control it. So always, when you're cooking, grab unsalted butter. Now, if you've got a nice big loaf of bread, different story. But you get the idea. All right, so our butter is starting to melt. And we called out to get sage. Was everyone able to find sage, or does anyone have any other herbs that they're using? Yeah, for the most part, thumbs up for sage. I dig sage, man. It's like, whoo! It's a strong one. It's a big smell, sage. But fresh herbs are really, really where you want to go with this sauce. All right? So what I want everyone to do is, whether you're using sage or thyme or rosemary, I want you to pick the leaves off the stem. Just like this. Just clicking them off the stem, leaving the leaves whole. All right? So you have these nice big leaves. Now, if you have really big leaves, I kind of give them a chop through, just so they don't get caught in your teeth. That happened to me on a date one time. No joke. I had like a ravioli with brown butter sauce, and they left the sage really big. And it was like, I was smiling, and it was just disgusting. Needless to say, there was no date number 2. But it happened. So I think about those things when I cook now. All right? So I'm looking at my butter, by the way, guys. You can go to top down. It's starting to melt, and I'm just stirring it. And it's going to melt, and once it melts, you're going to start to see it turn colors, right? It's going to start to turn brown. And that is when the sugar gets high enough in temperature where it starts to kind of caramelize. Beautiful. Now, with the sage, I know this is crazy, but if you pick up one leaf of sage and just smell it. It smells really good. Put that leaf in your hand and smack it. It smells even better. And we did this on the last, I think, USO spouse. Yeah, just by smacking it, it gets the essential oils out. Liz, I can see your face. I love it. You're like, whoa! So, what I like
my mind.
So I do this with basil, I do this with all herbs, but I just give it a good, quick little smack. And then I want you to kind of like sprinkle your sage into your butter. Even if it's not brown yet, just get them starting to kind of fry up. This looks great.
Chef Joel.
Yeah.
Liz here with a question. In the recipe it says to julienne the sage. Is that a technique, or are we just chopping, or is that slapping?
Julienne was my answer to not getting caught in your teeth, which just means cutting it really small. But we're going to leave it a little bit bigger because they're going to get crispy and you're going to be able to chew through them. So if you want to julienne them, it just means cutting them very thin. If you don't and you're cool with just ripping them like I did, it's the way to go. Totally optional. Thanks for calling that out. So guys, I've turned off my heat at this point, and I know it's hard to see in a black pan. Maybe let's go to the close-up here on the board. But you guys can see it's brown in my pan. It's the color of caramel sauce, right? So that I take it off a little bit before I want it to, like a little bit before the color I want, because it's going to continue to cook in this hot pan, even off the heat. But at this point, we have a beautiful brown butter with sage, and it smells amazing. So I'm going to pause there, because I know that was a lot. How we doing? Questions? Throw it in the chat. Unmute. Everyone okay?
Somebody just asked if you can use dried sage.
Yeah, you can absolutely use dried sage. Just don't use as much sage as we used. Whenever you use dried herbs, nice, Nicole! Come on, girl! Whenever you use dried herbs instead of fresh herbs, you have to cut it at least by half, because dried herbs is much stronger, right? It doesn't have the water in it that fresh herbs do, so they're very concentrated. Good question. Nicole, that looked amazing. It smells so good, and I know you guys are all over the world. Right now it's morning here in Seattle, and I'm not going to lie, I feel like I need to have brown butter with sage more mornings at this time. All right, a couple more questions. What is my favorite dish to make? I think risotto. I love making risotto. There's something about it, the action of it. I studied in Italy. It brings me back to that. It's one pot. It's so flexible. I like making risotto. Sharon Adams has a question. Talk to me, Sharon.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm using rosemary instead, fresh rosemary.
Yeah.
The same amount of as you put for sage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Same.
Thank you.
Totally. All right, guys. One more question, and then I'm going to start mashing some potatoes. Let's see. Are larger potatoes better to use? No, not necessarily. Any size potatoes will work for this, so smaller, larger, doesn't really matter. That was an easy one, so I'll do one more. What are some main pantry spices to have? Like, what are the spices you should have? All right, I think you need something spicy. I always like a cayenne or a chili flake. I think you need cumin and coriander. And then I'm a big nutmeg and cinnamon fan. So you get something spicy, you have that kind of cumin and coriander, which is great for Latin foods, Middle Eastern foods, so it covers a lot of gamut. And then I really like the sweet spices, the nutmegs and the cinnamons when you're making things like, cakes and desserts and things like that. All right. So now, my potatoes have overspilled, and they look great, but this is the beauty of cooking in a garage. I love it. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is grab my spider, and I got a bowl, so I want everyone to do this, and I'm going to just take one out just to show you guys. But I want you to test your potatoes by putting a knife in them, and it should cut through no problem. So if there's still a little bit of give, and it's tough to get your knife in there, give them another minute or two. but mine look good to go. So I'm going to take them all out. I do want you to try and drain as much of the water out as possible. So really give it that kind of treatment of giving it a good shake and getting it out of the water. All right? Now, this next step is no different than mashed potatoes. We're literally going to make mashed potatoes. And what's funny is I've done a recipe to take like leftover mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving and the next day making a gnocchi out of it because, I don't know, my thing with leftovers is I don't want the same meal as I just had. I want like a different cuisine. So Italian is always a genius second day meal of Thanksgiving for me. So I've got my potatoes in here. They're nice and hot. And I've got a potato masher. And I just want to literally start mashing these up. Couldn't be easier, right? Everyone with me so far? Thumbs up. You're mashing, Liz, Melissa, great, Glenda, Sharon. I see you guys mashing. Anna, cool. All right, guys. So really mash it up. I don't want chunks. In mashed potatoes, I like chunks, but in gnocchi, I don't like chunks. So I've got about a pound, maybe a pound and a half of potatoes mashed up here. And I will say, one of the big questions we got is, how do you make sure gnocchi are really light and pillowy? And the answer is, it is nice to use hot potatoes. So you can use cold potatoes, like the mashed potato idea I had, but hot potatoes make them really light and airy because they kind of absorb into the flour. Cool. This looks good. All right. Thumbs up if you got your spuds mashed. I love it. Love it. Okay, next up, I need 1 egg. Now, I have a rule about eggs. A, you always break on something flat. Never on the side. Anyone know why? I know you guys know why. You better unmute and start telling me.
It keeps the eggshells from getting too small when you crack them.
Come on! I love it! Thank you very much for giving me that. So yeah, you don't want to get eggshell in there. And my second rule is I always crack an egg into a separate bowl, not just into the mixture. And the reason why is if you have a bad egg, which, you know, happens every 100 eggs, you don't ruin those potatoes that you just spent a little bit of time on. So just something to think about. Turn this guy down. Cool. So egg in. All right. Big pinch of salt. Cool. And I want to go with some nutmeg. Now I have fresh nutmeg, which looks like this. You can totally use nutmeg that's already ground. But I just want to give a little bit of nutmeg, like a, you know, pinch. But this is really nice with the potato. And I also think nutmeg kicks butt with greens, like spinach or kale or something like that. So I'm going to mix up the egg and the potato and literally just kind of make what looks like mashed potatoes. Even though there's no egg in mashed potatoes, does this not just look like mashed potatoes? That's all it is. What I love about this recipe is, again, the ingredients are super affordable. But it's actually a pretty fast recipe to put together. I mean, we're going to be eating gnocchi pretty soon here, people. All right. So I'm going to pause there. We have a nice egg in our potatoes. How's everyone doing? I don't want to go too fast. Yeah, thumbs up from Kimberly, I see. Delyn, you okay? Thumbs up, sweet. Amber, Carla. Love it, buddy. Heather, you cool? Oh my God, Heather, your last name, Heather J. Cooksey. I want that last name. That is such a cool last name. I love it. All right. So I got my little mashed potato situation here. Now, how do you turn mashed potatoes into a dumpling? So we do that by adding flour. All right. Now, I'm using all-purpose flour. But honestly, any flour will work. Cake flour is actually very good for this. If you can find flour that's mainly for cakes, makes it very, very soft and pillowy and light. But hey, all I have is all-purpose flour, and all-purpose flour works out great. So I'm going to add about a cup to this, right over my mashed potatoes. I'm going to save a little bit behind in case I need it. And I'm going to literally start just mixing this together. And it's going to start to form a dough. I mean, it's not that difficult, right? This is one of those recipes, like so many recipes, came out of like, I have leftover potatoes. I have nothing really else. It was kind of born out of the peasant culture. And when you get a recipe like that, it always ends up being the best, right? With really simple ingredients, not overdone. I love it. So I'm kind of folding my flour into my potato mixture. And then at some point, your spatula is going to just not do its job. So I move to my hand. And I'm literally just going to kind of knead it. And mine's still a little hot because the potatoes are hot, right? But if yours is not, just kind of get in there and knead it. Now, you don't want it sticky. So if it starts to get sticky on you, add more flour. You don't want to add too much, right? To, again, about 1.5 pounds potatoes, you want, about 1.5 cups of flour. But you want it to come together like a dough. All right? And we're just going to kind of knead it, and then at some point I take it out, once it's really like a dough, onto a surface, and I'm just going to work it a little bit more. And I'm just folding it on top of itself and pushing. Folding and pushing. Folding and pushing. This is strengthening the dough, making it nice and strong. It's kind of crazy to see like mashed potatoes as a dough, right? Like this is straight up gnocchi at its best. Cool. All right, so now I have this nice little beautiful smooth dough. Smells incredible. I can smell the nutmeg, right? And again, if you need some extra flour, have it next to you. You can do a little dusting. And we'll just pause there. All right? So how's everyone doing? I would love to see your doughs. If you've got some doughs to share. Show me your doughs! I see Sharon working hard. Brittany! Yeah, girl! Woo! Who else has some dough? Let's see it. Hold it to camera. Yeah, Sandra! That looks great! Kimberly Waddle with the 3 boys. Any dough to show? Yeah! I love it! Great job, you guys! Sandy Richardson, love it! Good job, everybody. Brittany looks incredible. Isn't it a nice dough? It's very supple, just easy to work with. It's a little, it's a little tender, but that's okay. All right, so now, next step. Grab a knife and cut it into about 4 equal pieces. Just kind of eye it. All right? Grab 1 piece and kind of go back to kindergarten days here. I've been playing a lot with Play-Doh lately. And I want you to be gentle, and I want you to roll this into a nice little log. And I would say the log should be, a little thicker than your thumb. Right? So just kind of gently roll it. Now, if your log breaks, that's okay. But if it continues to break, it might be a sign that you need a little bit more kneading and that your dough is not strong enough. So this looks about right for me. It's a gentle, kind of easy dough. And I added a little flour because mine started to kind of stick to this countertop. So don't feel afraid to do that. All right, how's everyone doing? You either call this a log or you call this a snake. I don't know which one you call it, but I call it a snake. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to clean this little area up real quick. Cool. So next up, we take this little log or snake, and you cut little pillows like this. And this is our gnocchi. And they're beautiful. So easy. Right? Now, once you cut them, make sure to have some more flour nearby and give them a little toss through the flour, or they'll stick to the counter or to each other. But you should have little pillows of gnocchi. Now, a lot of people like to put the ridges in the gnocchi. So the way you do that is grab a fork, turn the fork upside down like this, and you can just roll the gnocchi on the fork, and you can get these really cute little ridges. I always feel like it's extra work. I like the pillows, but if you're a ridge person, go for it. And I always tell the story that I would be rolling gnocchi in Italy, where I was taught how to make gnocchi, and doing the ridges on the fork. And it was just a gossip fest with all these nonis. Loved it. It was all these older women who just would talk about, this person was with this person, and I saw this person at the store, and it was like totally. When you roll out pasta in Italy, it's like a reality show. There's a lot of drama happening. I like it. All right, I'm gonna do another one just so you guys can see. Plus, it gives me more gnocchi to eat. So I'm just going to roll my gnocchi out into a log. Again, a little thicker than my thumb. Right? I'm going to add flour if it starts to stick to the counter. I'm going to start doing now. And then I'm just going to cut little pillows. That one's no bueno. There we go. And I like to use the bench scraper for this too. Because you can kind of just get in there and give it a quick little cut. You can make big pillows, small ones, whatever you want. And that is plenty for me. All right, so I'm going to pause there, check in with my crew, my USO crew. How's everyone doing? Oh, look at Melissa go. Melissa, you got the setup, girl. I love it. Amanda, you good? Laura, you good? Is this making sense to everybody? I know this is kind of crazy, making gnocchi from scratch, but it's a lot of fun. Look at the boys! Oh, now if you haven't made me the big screen, I should have said this in the beginning, double-click me so you can really get me as the big screen, but I will say if you have a moment, go back to the top right-hand corner and go to Gallery View so you can see everyone else. And if you guys can go to Kimberly Waddle's little, her camera view, you can see 3 boys rolling gnocchi, and it is precious. This is why I cook, man. I love it. I love watching the future cook. All right, now, you'll notice I didn't say to take your water off the boil. So I still want your water that you boiled your potatoes boiling. So if it's not boiling, go ahead and get it boiling.
Joel, can you show the fork technique one more time?
Oh, yeah. And we had a question about the fork technique one more time. So let me do that again. I'll do it a couple more times. So I grab a fork, I turn it upside down, and then I just take my thumb and I just kind of run the gnocchi off of it, and you get those little ridges. Do it again. Run the gnocchi off that. And I drag it through the flour so it doesn't stick to the fork. Super easy. Now you can freeze these, you guys, if you want to. Freeze them just like this. I like to freeze them on like a big sheet tray and then put them in little bags because I don't have room for a sheet tray in my freezer. So totally up to you. Or you can cook them fresh, like this. They freeze for up to like 6 months, so don't feel bad about freezing them. In the restaurant, we would always freeze them, always. It's the way to go. And now I'm just like doing this. I don't know why. It's kind of therapeutic. Okay, I'm done. I'll sit there all day. All right, so now, another reason why I like the spider, this thing, is because you can load it up and drop it into the water and not burn your hands. So if you don't have a spider, go ahead and carefully add a couple of handfuls of your gnocchi to the water. Take your time. All right. If you do have a spider, you can load it up in the spider like this and just drop it into the water. Okay, I'm going to do that again. So I'm just going to load it up. You don't want to overfill the pot, guys, or the gnocchi might stick to each other. So just enough. Beautiful. All right, so I'm boiling away. So this last step is kind of making the sauce and finishing the gnocchi, which is so easy to do. All right, so all I want you guys to do is grab, I just want a cup. Here, I've got like a little cup. I'm going to grab a little bit of water. And I want you to see the color of this water. I'm going to hold it on my cutting board so you guys can see a close-up. It's very milky. And that's from the pasta I just put in there, the gnocchi, but also from the potatoes. And so I'm going to add this into my brown butter and bring that up to a little bit of just warm it up a little bit. And that's going to thicken the sauce, make it really nice and creamy. Beautiful. Woo! These dumplings are looking good. How's everyone else doing? Thumbs up? I love it, you guys. Come on, USO. Crushing it today. All right. So I'm just warming up my sauce. I'm on like maybe a 4 out of 10. Nothing crazy. You can see it's getting kind of creamy because I added that pasta water. I always love using pasta water, even tomato sauce. It just makes it a little creamy, a little thicker. All right. Now my gnocchi are probably about there, but literally they are done after about 2 minutes. So I'm going to add my gnocchi to the pan. Look at those. Let me get a close-up of the pan, Heather. So after about 2 minutes, these little dumplings come out. And they look so cute. And like little pillows of love. And I put them in the butter. And I'm almost going to brown them, just real quickly. Of course, I have like little pieces of potato in there, too. And now I got more dumpling in there. All right, there we are. So I'm just going to brown them in the sauce, just stirring them every once in a while, and they're going to almost crisp up. All right, so take your time. They look really delicious. I love gnocchi, man. Hey, why can't this be for breakfast? It's potatoes and eggs, okay, and butter. I'm eating this for breakfast. I want zero judgment from the USO here. Zero. Thank you, Heather. Heather Cooksey gets me. All right? So, our gnocchi's kind of crisping up. I'm just moving the pan a little bit, so you guys can see. And you're going to start to see a little crust happen on these gnocchi. Look at them. They're starting to turn like golden brown. Crispy. Woo! They smell good. Wow. If you want to add a little salt here, you can add a little salt. All right? And they're just, literally, I'm just kind of tossing them through the butter. Now, again, you have a family, you have a lot of people coming over. You know, what I like to do is do these ahead of time, freeze them, put them in the water, get my butter sauce going, and just do this when everyone shows up. You look awesome. The kitchen smells amazing. It's a win-win, okay? It's a total win-win. So I'm going to pause here. Any questions so far on this part? You guys are just like loving it. You guys are getting it. I love it. All right, I'm going to grab a plate. I'm going to let this sit for just a second. I want to answer 1 or 2 more questions. One question is, how do you cook and live sustainably? And I think it's a great question. I think it's a personal question. What does sustainable mean to you? To me, it means not wasting a lot of food. So for me, it means trying to cook as much of what I buy and not letting it go to the trash. If it has to go to the trash, is it something that you can put in your garden and compost? That's a really good sustainable approach. But also, I would say supporting local farms and local purveyors. So no matter where you're based, I saw someone was based in Germany and someone in Italy and other people in Texas. Go to the farmer's market. Learn about your local products and support them. And it's just really, really important. To me, that is part of the sustainability lifestyle. All right, let's plate these puppies up. I'm going to grab a big spoon. I got a plate ready to go. And I'm going to literally take these little dumplings right onto the plate. They look like pillows of joy. They're a little crispy. Now, you don't need to get them crispy, just for the record. If you like them kind of just bouncy and kind of the way they are, that's great. I think the crisp gives them a little bit of extra texture. This is how I was taught in Italy, how to make these guys. Grab some sage, that crispy sage, and then you can even grab a little bit of that sauce and just drizzle it over the top. Now, since we made gnocchi from scratch, and you're eating basically pasta, let's get some nice cheese going. Right over the top. And there you have it. Homemade brown butter and sage gnocchi with 5 ingredients and 5 tools. Let's do a close-up of that. Woo! Woo! I'm going to have to try this. Twist my arm. But I would love to see... Oh, look at Sandra. Come on, Sandra Fairfield. Got it, girl. Crushing. Who else has some gnocchi to share? Take your time. There's no rush. I'll answer a couple more questions, but I have to. It's part of the gig. I got to try it. I have to try it. I'm going to grab one of these. Why is that so good? Why is that so good? Oh! Melts in your mouth. I mean, woo! It's hot going down. The brown butter is sweet. The sage just kind of, the whole thing, you taste like this beautiful floral note from the sage. And the dumplings are just like candy. I mean, they're crispy, they're creamy in the middle. I mean, this is gnocchi at its finest. Absolutely love it. Sandra, you had a question. Let's go to you.
So, not so much a question, but just a suggestion if someone wants to try something different, especially if they've made it before. My family is Italian on one side and Polish on the other. And the Polish side makes kapitka, which is basically the same thing as gnocchi.
Oh.
But they do it, sometimes the recipe is the same as yours, but you can also add about 2 or 3 tablespoons to the batter of farmer's cheese, which is equivalent to like what mascarpone would be.
Yeah.
So you can add that into the batter, and it also gives that light, fluffy, makes them, the texture of them just super fluffy when you finish cooking them.
You just blew my mind. So are they creamier? Like, are they, like when you cut into them, are they creamier?
Yes. Yep.
Ooh.
They're a little softer, a little creamier.
Ooh.
Just about 2 tablespoons of mascarpone or farmer's cheese.
Or cream cheese, because that's basically the same thing. That's interesting. Oh, I love it. Sandra, thank you. What is it called? What's
Thank
the
you.
name of the dish?
Kapitka.
Kapetka.
Kopytka.
Kapetka. All right, I'm going to Google it. Now I'm going to go down an obsession, rabbit hole. That's what chefs do. Thanks, Sandra. Good to meet you. Who else? Who has something to share? Can anyone show their finished creation, either in the pan or on the plate? Oh, this is insane.
Melissa.
I love Melissa. Where's Melissa? Let's see. You have your finished one?
She wants to know what your favorite thing to serve with gnocchi is.
Oh, Melissa asked. Oh, she's still rolling. I love it. So Melissa asked, what's my favorite thing to serve with gnocchi? I think that's a really good question. Because gnocchi to me is so rich, right? It is rich. You've got the butter, you've got the potatoes. It's kind of heavy. It's a pasta. So what would you serve on the side of pasta? So typically a nice crisp salad. Nothing crazy. No creamy vinaigrette. I would stay away from like a Caesar or something like that, and do more of like, a really nice olive oil vinegar type thing, and just make it a nice light salad that's cool and kind of counterbalances the heaviness of the gnocchi. So I would go with salad, but, totally up to you. And I'll be honest, another great question that Liz was asking me before the call was, how do you add protein to this? And totally great question. You can add chicken to this. It would be delicious. Shrimp would be really amazing in this, or even just some salmon cubed up and cooked into it. I mean, think about what's in this. It's potato, right? And it's basically mashed potato. So whatever you would serve with mashed potato would go really well with gnocchi, just kind of folded through this pasta. Look how good this is. I need to do one more bite. Any other questions? Oh, it disintegrates on your tongue. It's so good. Well, I really hope You guys picked up some great tips and tricks. We had almost, I think, just over 40 people log in from around the world to cook together and kind of come around our little virtual kitchen, our USO virtual kitchen counter. And to me, when I cook like this and talk to you guys and tell stories and hear and learn, it does feel like that. It just feels like we're all together, and that's really what this program is about. It's connecting us and making sure we all know that we're not alone. We're together in the kitchen. We're learning and sharing. So again, I want to just thank you guys for all that you do as military spouses, the service that you give to our great country, and again, allowing us to kind of do our thing and protecting us throughout. So just thank you to all of you for tuning in. I want to thank, of course, Nicole and Elizabeth, who have been great partners and inviting me to be a part of this program. And with that, I'll send it back to Liz. But thank you again, everyone, for your time, and enjoy your gnocchi. Back to you, Liz.
Thank you, Chef Joel. This was amazing. Even if you all are on mute, let's have a round of applause for Chef Joel and the team at Homemade. Fantastic. I'll share this with the military spouse audience because I know you all feel me. We PCS tomorrow. Our household goods come and get packed up tomorrow. I ran out of flour halfway through the recipe, so I wish I were in Chef Joel's kitchen to taste that because I got the buttered sage and it smells amazing and I can't do anything with it. So I know you guys feel me on that. Sorry that I couldn't join you in the cooking, but it looks amazing. We are so glad that you were all with us today. Don't forget, we're going to send you a feedback survey after this, and if you complete it and send it back to us, you're going to be registered to win either one of 10 gift boxes from Cabot Cheese or one of 10 USO aprons. So we hope you'll join us for our next In the Kitchen with Chef Joel, which is going to be in September. And we're going to put up a little picture at the end of this that has a link to our USO Military Spouse Facebook group. You can vote on what we cook in September with Chef Joel. There's going to be some options, so let us know what you think. We look forward to cooking with you all again. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.